Hey, good evening, everybody. How you doing tonight, Michael?
I'm doing fantastic, Sensei Juan. How are you doing? This is already conversation, Born to Win conversation number 5, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, and tonight we're going to talk about mentoring and how to be a more productive mentor, but also how to be a more productive mentee.
Very good, man. Very good. I'm anxious to get started, man.
All right, all right. So we'll be right back. All right, guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about the mentor-mentee relationship, and me and Mike have been involved in martial arts for a long time. We've done network marketing companies before, and it's always been a very crucial thing to have a great mentor, and also being a great mentee. And one of the things that I was researching that I wasn't aware of is that 71 to 74% of corporate Fortune 500 companies in America have a mentor program. Okay. And they
Mm.
find that when they implement the mentor programs, they have a greater retention rate of employees, greater satisfaction, and greater productivities of the employees. And what do you think about that, Mike?
Well, it's interesting that you and I we been in martial arts together, and we were in a Christian religion that focused on mentorship and stuff
Right,
like that,
right,
and the martial arts by itself, right?
right.
It's a great thing. A lot of people don't use mentors, and I think that's a huge mistake, because the bottom line is that it shortens that learning curve. Everybody goes through a learning curve when they want to do something that they're not familiar with. When you find a mentor, somebody that's already done what you want to do, it makes it a lot faster and a lot better. Now, let me ask you this: what do you find, or how do you define a mentor? How many different ways can you say this is a mentor of mine?
I think a mentor is someone who brings out the best in you and who helps you get to the next level in life. And and sometimes it may be very specific because you may have a mentor for your financial goals, you may have a mentor for your physical health goals, you may have a mentor for emotional or spiritual goals. You don't need one mentor for all those things. Everybody has a gift in certain areas, and sometimes you have to seek that out. And again, the word educate really means to bring forth, okay, from within. And I
Hmm.
think a great mentor is someone who will do that, who will guide you, will help you find your inner strength, your inner genius, and will help you navigate through the obstacles that you're gonna face. And it's interesting, like what you just said before, that having a mentor cuts the learning curve. All right. I always tell my students that they should, all my students, I tell them, you should surpass me in martial art skill and in martial art knowledge, because I'm taking 40 years of knowledge and experience and condensing it to 7 or 10 years, from the time you start training to you get to your first black belt, maybe 7 to 10 years, and I'm condensing all that knowledge into that time. So you should jump by leaps and bounds compared to what I've done. What do you think, Mike?
Well, that's I love that, and I just recently did a training, or another Zoom meeting like this with one of my personal mentors in my business. I'm a public adjuster, and This gentleman started there. He was with the company prior to me coming there. His name is Akia Heem. You can look him up. He's got a YouTube. He got two separate channels. One for his religious teaching and one
Right.
for his public adjusting. But what's interesting is that sometimes you have a mentor on a personal basis, right?
Right. Right.
Where you know you're the mentee and that's the mentor,
Right.
and you're getting instructions from him. But you can also have a mentor at somebody that you could see from a distance
Right.
and not necessarily have that personal interaction, that personal communication, but you can view what he's doing, right? And emulate what he's doing, and extract in your mind, okay, this is how he communicates, this is how he does what he does, this is how he
Right.
uses this strategy. And that could be a mentor. You could also have a mentor in the form of a book, right?
Right.
Your mentor
Right.
could be
Right.
dead 100 years, and you pick up his book, and like you just said, you got 40 years compressed in what you're teaching. I got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now you could tell I haven't put into practice what he taught, but he took 20, 30 years of learning how to make his body, a magnificent piece of, body.
Right.
And he put it into a book that I could read in 6 months. And now I absorb, 20 or 30 years worth of information. So there's a lot of different ways with this mentorship. There's a lot of different ways in which, and today with YouTube, today with, online books or audio
Right.
books or any of those things, you can pick up a mentor real good. Now, let me ask you this: what is a good mentee?
A good mentee. Well, it's funny you bring that up because I wrote some notes on that. A good mentee, number one, has to be clear about what their goals are. Then they have to
Mm,
ask themselves, what do I need to learn to achieve my goals? Okay. Then they have to ask themselves, are they coachable? Because not everybody's coachable. And some
mm,
mentees some people are easily offended, they're easily defensive. And if you're somebody who gets easily offended, you're not going to be a good mentee. All right. Because you have to be able to accept constructive criticism, and you have to be able to to act on those things. And also, as a good mentee, you have to ask yourself, how committed are you to the process? Okay. Because if your mentor is 100% committed, but you're only 10% committed as the mentee, you're not going to succeed. It's a mutual relationship where you're putting in 100%, the mentor is putting 100%, and there's a clear objective. You got to go into that relationship with a clear goal. If that goal is not there, both of you are going to be wasting a lot of time. What
right.
do you think, Mike?
Well, let me ask you this, because you bring up some good information, and as we said, there's different ways of finding a mentor. But let's say I wanted to learn finances. I
Right.
wanted to learn how to invest in real estate, let's say, and so I don't have the faintest clue. I could pick up a book, but if I wanted to have somebody on a personal, on a personal basis, what do you suggest? How should I find a mentor for that particular, topic, for any particular topic? If I wanted to find a live mentor, a lot of people are afraid, first of all, to do that, right? To
Right.
approach somebody that may be where they're already at. But what would you suggest for me to do that?
I would tell you, first of all, do your research. There's a lot of guys out there. Let's take that topic, finance, right? You have man, Anthony Robbins. He's got a great program. Warren Buffett. You got guys like that are out there putting information. And the best thing you could do is research which guy has the most credentials behind his name. In other words, has he actually succeeded in helping people. Look up
Mm.
for the testimonials, look what they're saying about it, the pros and the cons. You got to look at the negative and the positive, and also talk to the people around you. Maybe the people around you know somebody. Okay, you may see somebody
Mm.
in your circle that has um, good financial success. They have multiple streams of income, and you can ask them, listen, who's guiding you? And they may tell you, listen, I got this personal financial planner. They're associated with X, Y, and Z, and I highly recommend this. And that's a good way. Use your immediate resources. Talk to the people around you that you're looking for this type of mentor. Do your research. I was going to say go to Barnes and Noble and do some research, but you got to find one that's open nowadays. But that's
Yeah.
how I would approach it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. How about this, man? When you are the person that somebody approaches to be a mentor, hey, you do this very
Right.
really well. You're a martial artist, or you're a business person, or you're a good parent, or you got a great successful marriage. When somebody you feel somebody is feeling you out for that particular
Right.
mentorship, for you to be the
Right.
mentor to them, what do you look for yourself when you're being the mentor? What are you looking to put out there?
You know what? And I do this with students and people that have approached me on different things. My pet peeve is this: if during the conversation the person starts saying, "I know, I know, I know," right away I know I can't mentor this person, because it's like Bruce Lee said. I'm going to use this. Their cup is already full. The glass is already full. So I can't put any more knowledge. This person is looking for a mentor, but they're already telling you that they know all this stuff. So I'm like, so why are you coming to me? You know what I'm saying? And it's funny, like I've had people who come into my martial art dojo, and right away well, I've done this, I've done that, I'm a second dan on this, or I'm a fourth dan on this. And I'm like, well, what do you need me for? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you have all this knowledge, you don't need me. It's like a couple of years ago, I had a lady come in. She has three kids, and the oldest one, I think, was 14. They were 12, 13, and 14, right? And she was already telling me that they were at second degree black belt at an adult level. Yeah. And she wanted them to train with me because she's heard of me. She's come by the dojo. And I told her, well, listen, if they're going to train with me, this is my number one rule for everybody. They have to start at white belt. I don't care what rank they are. I don't care how many degrees of black belts. They must start at white belt, right? And I don't charge for any of the belt exams, so I'm not trying to milk you for any money. I'm not trying to get money from testing fees, but they may start at white belt. And she got really offended by that. All right. Well, they're already black belts, and why are you going to make them start again? I said, well, they were under a different instructor, a different system, and everybody who comes to me shows that humility, that they're opening themselves up to my way of teaching. I'm not taking away anything that they've done. I'm sure they're excellent kids, that they have excellent skills, but this is my requirement. And she tells me, well, no, that's offensive to me, that you're going to make my kids start over. And I told her, well, I'm not the person for you. Right. So then her husband comes in and he tells me, well, listen, we'll pay you what we're paying the other instructor. And they were paying $150 per student. I only charge 85. And I told the guy, listen, this is not about the money. This is about them willing to be humble, to be open, and to start again and to earn their stripes in my school. All right. And since you have a hard time with that, your wife is having a hard time, and you're telling me your kids are going to have a hard time with that, obviously, I'm not the instructor for you. And I gave them some names of some other people, never saw them again. But that's
Yeah.
my thing. I look for that willingness to learn, that willingness to be a little humble, to be open-minded, to be coachable, and not to be somebody who's going to be getting easily offended, because I just don't, I personally don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Mike?
Well, there's a and you know that both of us have had some education on the Bible and things like that, and I'm by the furthest thing from a religious guy, right? I believe in God, but I don't attend any church, to be honest with you, and that's just me. I'm just being transparent, right? But the Bible has an interesting story of the rich man that went to Jesus and said, "Hey,
Yeah,
I want to follow you. What do I got
yeah,
to do to be part of the kingdom?" Right? And Jesus said, recognizing in his wisdom, he recognized in the beginning that this guy's, you know, value system was more in material things. So he said, take all the stuff you own, give it away to the poor people, and come and follow me. Right? And at saying that, the guy took a couple of steps backwards and said, I'm out of here. Right. And the point for me is because you know what's interesting is that Jesus didn't ask that of anybody else.
right,
Right.
right, right.
When the people came to follow him, he
Yeah,
didn't say to anybody else, sell everything to give your everything to the poor people and come and follow me. He did that for that one specific guy
right,
because he saw that in that guy's heart, in his mind, material things were worth more than the spiritual things.
right, right,
So the lesson is that you got to know who you're going to spend your time with, right?
right,
You talked about network marketing, and in network marketing, that's a great lesson because you get people that come in and they tell you, yeah, I want to be mentored and I want to be successful in this business, but at the same time, they want to see 7 hours of TV, right? So
right,
that's a little bit off, right?
right, right,
So and I like to test people by giving them a little assignment,
right,
right? I was just in this training that was done over Zoom, but it was from Vegas, and what it said is when you get somebody to mentor, you give them an assignment that you consider is assignment at a 10 level, from 0 to 1. I mean,
right,
from 1 to 10. That 10 is the top. So you give them a high level assignment and see if they produce anything. See if they come back and do the assignment. Now, if they go and do the 10 assignment, now okay, I got a winner here. I got somebody that follows through. But if you give him an
right,
assignment and he can't do it, then you give him an 8 assignment, right? Something that you say, okay, it's not as
right,
hard as that one. Let me give him this other assignment. You give him the assignment, you give him a deadline. They haven't done that. Okay, now we do
right,
6, right? So you keep lowering it until you get to that point where you find that person follows through. Okay, he's a 5.
right,
Okay, now I know where he's at and I got to incrementally get him up, right? But
right, right,
that's how you do it. Now, some people, when you give them an assignment and they don't accomplish it, they just feel bad about themselves to the point where they just quit. So
right,
there's a certain balancing act there as a mentor,
right,
right? How can
right,
I keep this guy's fragile ego from quitting, yet at the same time try to build him up, right?
right,
So there's a lot of juggling there. There's a lot of mental process as a mentor, right? How am I going to help build this person? But there's a lot of interesting things there. Now, as a mentee, what would you say is the biggest characteristic you need as a mentee to be successful? You already mentioned being coachable.
right,
Outside of being coachable, I think being coachable is like you got to be coachable, right?
right,
And,
right,
and
right,
the people that say, I already know that. Yeah,
right, right,
when
right,
I
right.
hear that, by the way, when I hear that, I say, well, when was the last time you did that?
Right.
Right? Because people know a lot,
Yeah.
but are you practicing what you know? That's the
Right.
difference, right?
Right.
So as a mentee, aside from those, I know that and being coachable, what do you think is one of the key characteristics?
Is persistence. You got to have
Okay.
persistence, because as a mentee, you have to have the understanding that you're not going to learn and master everything. You got to remember your mentor may have 30 years of experience doing what he does or what she does. So they make it look second nature. And you may want to be at that level, but you don't know if it took them 30 years to get there. It might have taken them 20 years.
Right.
And then in the last 10 years, they just really mastered it. So you have to be persistent. You have to be patient. You have to be able to say, listen, I know this is a process. I have to stick with it, and I have to stick for it with it for the long term. And you brought up something very, very interesting, that how a mentor tests out his mentees. That's really, really important, Michael, because as a martial arts, dojo owner or someone who's into network marketing, everybody looks for superstars, right? You look for those students that are just gonna blow you up. You look for that recruit that's just gonna blow up your business, right? And we all thrive on that. We all look for that. But my personal experience is this: you have students that will come in through your door, and I can't tell you how many come in through my door that really, really were not go-getters. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to be in martial arts, but if I would have let go of their hand, they would have fell apart, or they would have dropped out of the school. And if you have the patience, and you got to be able to recognize that in the person. Some students, they take a long time to really, really get up to speed. And when I say up to speed, I mean just like walking. I don't even mean like jogging or running, that this person is just now walking. And I got one particular young man who's currently training with me. And I tell you, the first 14 months of training was difficult. This kid even cried several times on the dojo because I would push him, and everybody thought he was lazy. Some of my other students really didn't want to partner with him, but he had a self-esteem issue, okay, underneath all that. And now after 14 months, he's finally raising his hand. Hey, Sensei, when we're doing katas, I want to be in the front. And he's still nervous. He's still nervous, but it took him 14 months to do that. And he's really a good kid. And it's funny, now some of the other students are recognizing the potential in him. But if I would have let him go after 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, if I'd have, this guy's useless, if he really wanted to train, he would be doing it. No, some people have to be developed. It's like when we talk about plants. If I put a seed in the ground, certain seeds, like an onion, comes up in about 6-7 weeks. But an oak tree may take 100 years. And right. No matter what I do to that oak tree, it's still going to take 100 years. So as mentors, you have to know who you want to work with, but also you have to know who are the go-getters and who are the people you really have to hold by the hand. Because I'm sure even in network marketing, there are people that could be great superstars, but you really have to hold their hand, maybe for 2 years, before they blow up. But a lot of times you'll see mentors, they're not willing to put in that time into that person. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. I think, you hit it dead on, because one of the biggest things that a mentor needs to do is to see more in the person that they see themselves, right? That's the biggest thing, because most people have all this potential inside of them. They may have these visions of themselves where they're shrunk and they're small and they can't do it. And it's up to the mentor to be able to kind of bring that out. Now, you can't bring that out in one night. It's something that you have to bring out like a flower opening up. It doesn't open up, boom, right? It opens up a little bit at a time, and then it blossoms. The same thing with a mentor. Now, when we're talking about mentees, for those of you that are mentees that are looking at this, you got to be willing to follow the steps that you're hearing from your mentor. If your mentor says, hey, try this in the morning before you get out of bed, make sure you go through this vision thing in your mind, right? Like whatever the mentor tells you. But It's up to
right,
you to follow. I mean, why do you have a mentor if you're not willing to follow,
right,
right?
right,
And
right,
as a mentor, it's up to you to see more in that person than they see in themselves. And you know what? Ultimately, and I'll tell you, this is one of the things that I absolutely cherish from being a mentor. I'm a mentor to a few people, and I got a lot of mentors myself. I got
right.
mentors that I'm still continuing to learn. I need to because I don't know anything. And if you don't believe me, you could ask my wife. But uh, you need to constantly have a mentor for yourself
Right,
and to be. But being a mentor, looking at how people open up, and these are only the people that actually follow through with what you're telling them,
right,
right? When you say, hey, do this one step, and
right,
boom, they do it.
right,
And then what's beautiful is seeing somebody open their eyes a little bit more, right?
right,
They say, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, sensei made me do that. And
right,
now I feel like, wow, I stood there and I fought that guy that I didn't think I could fight. And right,
right, right,
it happens with anything in mentorship, right? Oh my God, I didn't know I could do. I teach people how to do video marketing, right? And the video marketing, a lot of people are apprehensive. Oh no, I can't do that. And then I just shine my cell phone and say, come on, let's do it. And we
yeah,
do a Facebook Live together. And then they can't stop looking at themselves
right,
because
right,
they're so impressed with themselves,
right,
right? And they thought all this time, oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then when I say we're on now, hey, how you doing, everybody? We're right.
right,
Then
right,
they just go and they just flow.
right,
And before you know it, they're constantly looking at the video saying, oh man, look at me, man. I don't look so bad. Right.
right,
And
right,
that's the change that you need. That's the switch that a mentor has to engage in
right,
order for the mentee to grow. Right.
right, right. And it's funny because one of the things that pr- moves the relationship forward of mentor mentee is having that agenda. When the mentor and the mentee come together, that they've already decided, listen, today at 9 o'clock, this is what we're gonna do. All right. And stick to that script and stick to the a consistent schedule, whether you meet once a week, once a month, and then have a way to measure your progress, because we could be mentoring each other, but how do we measure that progress in real time? So we got to have a standard where, let's say network marketing, um when you tell your mentee, well, listen, you're only making 5 calls a week, so we're going to do 2 calls every day, 6 days a week. That'll get you up to 12, right? In martial arts, I may tell a student, well, listen, at home, this is what I want you to do. You're going to practice your stances for 5 minutes every day for this week. Next week, you're going to go 5 minutes and a half. That way we measure the progress. And like for us in martial arts, we have belt testing. And that lets us know, listen, I always tell my students this: the deck never lies. Because when you step on that deck and I ask you to perform, I know whether you've been practicing or whether you haven't been practicing. I don't care what you tell me, it's going to show up on the deck. All right. So, as a good mentee, you have to put in the work. I have to do my job as a mentor and give you the proper information at the right amount of time, in the right amount. I should say the right amount, because I can't overwhelm you either. There was a study done that when people attend seminars or classes, they only remember about 7% of the information given, which is
Right.
really interesting, because that means 93% of what you talked about and what you taught is out the window. They only retain
Right.
7%. So you have to know as a mentor how much information to give that person. I just need they have to understand the broader picture, but from point A to point B, that's all I got to do. I got to get you to point B. I don't have to take you from point A to point R in one night. I got to do it in little steps. We got to measure it. And also there's got to be a reward system. You know, as a mentor, it's not just enough to teach. Sometimes you have to make that recognition, that public recognition of the person you're mentoring, you know, so they can feel that motivation. You know, like in martial arts, every few weeks I may put a piece of electrical tape on my students' belts, right? And it's funny because when I tell them, listen, at the end of this week, I want to hand out tips, right? But I'm only going to do it if you guys work hard. I'm not going to give it away. And and every time I say that week, every student always kicks it up because they want that recognition. And it's just a piece of black tape or wrapped around their belt, but that motivates them, you know. And as
Right.
mentors, you know, we have to be aware of that. It's like John C. Maxwell. You know, he's a success coach. He's a minister.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he's very good. And this is what he says about teaching and mentoring. Number one, as a mentor, you have to value the person you're mentoring. Number two, you have to value what they value. And then number three,
Mm.
you have to become more valuable as a mentor for them. You know, what do you think, Mike?
I love that, man. I love that. And, you know, I love the way you started that little segment because what you mentioned was actually, you know, and we do this a lot in martial arts and in network marketing. It's interesting that you bring network marketing into the conversation. For those of you that are looking at, we're both network marketers. We're both in the business in one way or another, and we're not pushing that on you, but it might be something that you might want to look at. But here's what I'm going to tell you: there is tremendous power in those four words. Let's do this together, right? Let's
Right,
do this together. In martial arts, we do that. Let's do this together. All right, we're going to do front kick, guys. And now I'm doing 10 front kicks, and everybody else in the class is doing 10 front kicks. Hey, let's do this together. We're going to make some phone calls so that we could grow your business. You only did 5 calls. We're going to do 2 calls a day for 6 days. That's going to boost our numbers to 12 this week, right?
right,
So let's do this together. Let's do this together is one of the best phrases a mentor could use, right?
right,
Because you're
right,
actually taking that person, and like we just said, sometimes the eyes open up a little bit more when the
right,
person says, "Wow, I could do this. Oh, wow, I Sensei was with me, and I did this, and I threw the kick, or I made the phone call, or I took care of the objection, whatever it is, right?" But once you are there with a mentor and the mentor is walking you through the process, you're literally changing the person's scope, their self-image about themselves and what they can accomplish. And that's what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference between a person that's going to make a long-term change or
right,
somebody that's just like you said, remembering 7%, right? And then forget about it. The key is to make that little switch in the head go off, right? Because you're
right, right,
actually doing something with them, and they get into they get an automatic renewing or upgrading of their self-image
right.
because they're looking at themselves in a different way. Hey, Sensei made me do this. Hey, Mike made me do that video, and I look pretty damn good, right?
Right,
So,
right, right.
in closing, Sensei, in closing, what would you say for a mentor? What's the number one thing that somebody could start with, and somebody that's looking to be a mentee? What's something that they should be doing also?
Um, I'm gonna get a little biblical. You know, they in the Bible they always call Jesus the greatest teacher, right? And
Mm,
when you look at his ministry and you look at his teaching, there were certain comments that were made that I think as mentors we should apply. Number one, that he taught with authority. And what does that mean? When you teach with authority, it means that you're teaching from a place of knowledge, a place of expertise. So we as mentors have to engage in our own personal development program. we first have to set that example of
Mm,
constantly learning, you know, and leading by example. Like I give you, like Saturday I was teaching, right? And I did the katas with my kids. I am standing in the front of the dojo with them, and I'm stretching with them, and I'm doing the katas with them, because I want them to see, listen, I'm not just talking here, I'm doing this. I'm doing this with you. Another thing that they say what made Jesus a very great teacher was that what he taught was practical for the present and the future. And I think as mentors, we sometimes we forget about that. That we're developing the person for the future, and we want future results, but they have to also experience immediate results. It's
right,
like they say in network marketing, right? The best way to keep somebody in network marketing, put money in their pocket right away. That's the
right,
fastest way. In martial arts, if I want to keep a student, the best thing I can do is correlate the training that they're getting in the dojo with their outside life as immediately as possible, and have them progress in something, even if it's just throwing the punch, making sure that they do it good. And the other thing that that made Jesus a great teacher was that he knew when to be gentle with people, and he knew when to be firm. And if you read the scriptures, like, there were certain people that he was very gentle with, and then there was other people like, listen, you're going to hell, and bring out the whip on them, right? And sometimes,
yeah,
as teachers, as mentors, we have to understand that. Then again, there are students you have to be hard on, okay? But there are students that you really have to be gentle with. And I think that's where a lot of mentors fail, because we get into that mentality again. Well, if that person is really motivated, they're going to do it. Look, nobody helped me and I did it. And we get into that. But there are students, again, if you take them by the hand and you're gentle with them and you guide them, and yeah, listen, it may be a 2 or 3 year process, but at the end of those 3 years, now you got this amazing superstar. You know what I'm saying?
right,
And I think, again, we have to be aware of that. And as a mentee, as somebody who also, I've had different instructors, the number one thing I always reminded myself, I have to be humble before this person. I'm coming to them to help them so they can help me make me better. Okay. So if I go there with an
right,
arrogant attitude that I already know it, that person's going to be turned off by that. All right.
right,
I have to be humble, and I have to follow through. Like you said, I used to train with Shihan Mosquera. We used to train just once a week, right? We used to do about a 3 hour class after all my classes ended. It was a few of us, but he will give us a drill to do for the entire week. Okay, I'm not going to see you till next Saturday. You got 6 days to learn this. And the next week, he would test us on that, see if we learned it before moving forward. And you have to accept that as a mentee. You have to follow through on your assignments. All right. What do you think, Mike?
I fully agree, man. And what I have to say in my closing argument here is that the number one thing is practice, and practice goes for both ends, right?
Right, right,
As a
right,
mentee, you should be practicing. You should constantly be
right,
looking for a new mentor. You should constantly be trying to get better. You should constantly trying to grow, because the people that are following you, and
right,
we'll talk about being a mentor in a second, but the people that are following you are looking at your example, right?
right,
And the best form of leadership, I've said this before, is when you do something so good that you don't have to tell people to follow you. People follow you because they see the value in how good you're doing things, and they want to be in that same spot. So there's a lot of great things there as a mentee. Practice as a mentor is
right,
something that every one of us should be doing, right? Because we
right,
should be looking to mentor other people. And I'll tell you what, guys, if you're a parent, find a way to mentor your kids. If you are a teacher, find a way to mentor your students. If you're in, any kind of business, find a way to mentor your employees. And again, you got to look at the little subtleties that are involved there, especially in the mindset, especially in, the self-image that the person has, the individual has
Right.
about themselves, and what blockades, what blocks they're making for themselves, because none of us are being blocked by anything outside except our own thinking, right?
Right.
We create our own prisons, and as a mentor, it's up to you to give them the key to free themselves, right? For
Right.
them to become more. So I I know that you and I could sit around and talk about this for hours.
Right.
But here's what I want to tell you guys. For those viewers, if this is the first time you're on this channel, please subscribe. Please give us a like if you like the information, and comment. Let me hear your comments. Let me hear what you got to say, because you know what? This is a critically important topic that you
Right.
should be expressing your views on, right?
Right.
So
Right.
how can you become a better mentor? How could you become a better mentee? Give us a comment below. And Sensei Juan, thank you very much. This is Born to Win Conversations number 5, all about mentoring. And I appreciate your time with us here, man. I will see you next week. What are we talking about next week?
Oh man, you caught me by surprise again. But you know what? I think that we've covered the law of attraction, the paradox of success. We've talked about helping teenagers become financially successful, about the mentoring relationship. I think it is we should really look at setting goals, because there's
Okay.
so much misinformation about that. And I think like the New Year's resolutions, people make New Year's
Already gone.
resolutions. Yeah,
They're already
and
gone. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I think goals is the same way. That a lot of people don't know how to set goals, they don't know how to pursue goals, and it's not their fault. They've never been taught how to do those things. But like I think Zig Ziglar, he had mentioned a study that was done, I think in the 50s or the 60s. They followed people for about 30 years, and they saw that the people who actually written down goals had achieved so much more than those who didn't. And there's a science behind that. There's a very real scientific explanation for those things. And I think we should bring that to the public. What do you
Good, man. I'm excited about that subject, and I'm going to have some research done. I'm going to be pumped up and ready to go. And I hope that, again, the viewer, if you looked at this and you're not subscribed to the channel so that you can get next week's episode, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this. Share this with your social media, and we will see you next week talking about goal settings and goal achievement. Sensei Juan, thank you very much. I appreciate you spending your time with me, man.
All right. Give my love to the family. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.